All right, welcome to War Media Bears recap. This is Saul Rodriguez and Joe Tanksley, along with Ryan Bukowiecki, who you can see on that Davis show. So, guys, we're basically a week, after the draft here, and I've had time to bask in all these draft picks and see what our opinions are. But this and that, should they have done this? Because I know the talk is always should they have done that, or are you satisfied? And you know what? I'm gonna stick to the script here, and I'm gonna ask you guys off the bat, what did you guys think of the draft? First, how are you doing? How is it? And what did you think about the draft overall? And we'll start with our guest today being Ryan. What did you think, Ryan? And how are you doing today, man?
Doing great. Great talking with you guys. Draft day. I was telling Ken. In the city of Chicago, it's kind of your Super Bowl. You don't get
Mhm.
playoffs around here very often, so that's the eternal optimistic big event, right? And I think just in terms of the draft for like the Bears purposes, if you will, I thought that they did what they essentially needed to do. We knew that they needed to fortify the lines. I think they did that overall. We learned, I would say, that they really love Braxton Jones as a left tackle specifically, and their future left tackle, at least for the time being. Maybe that's one of those positions with the two first rounders in the future. Maybe you target for next year if Braxton Jones can't get the job done. But I think that they really like him, so that's why they went with the pure right tackle. And I thought they would go Darnell Wright, so I wasn't surprised by the pick whatsoever. And then when you look at kind of the defensive linemen that they brought in, athletic freaks, so we'll see if they can kind of transform them into consistent football players. I really like the running back and the receiver in the fourth round. I thought that those two were really intriguing. And then kind of from there, you got some extra depth. I like the corner pickup, especially in the second round too with Tyreek Stevenson, just because that's an area that they needed. They needed another corner. I was telling Ken, I'm kind of done with the Kindle Vildor. Like, if you got to come in because of injury, fine, but I'm kind of done with the Kindle Vildor experience.
You know what? You know what? I thought the draft. I thought this draft we learned a little bit more about who Ryan Poles is as a football executive, and we got some insight into how he feels about this team with the moves that he did make and the moves that he didn't make. He comes across as a person that's going to be very shrewd and conservative while making these decisions, because as we've seen how he's selectively sign players to 1 year deals, and who he's given contracts to, and who he did draft, and who he did draft and who he did pick. Um, I know a lot of people are lamenting that he didn't take Jalen Carter. I know we were going to talk about that, but when you look at where the team is in the rebuild, that locker room is not ready and able to be able to mentor a player like Jalen Carter. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have a player that he can look up to and get advice from in that locker room. So it wasn't a good fit. And I'm kind of happy, saying that, he went that route. I was kind of saying that, like, if he was at 9 and there, you kind of have to take him, but he didn't. And I think the guy that he did pick up in Darnell Wright is a person that's going to be there for the next 8 to 10 years, and he's going to help give that offensive line an identity, just in his short time, with speaking with the media outlets here, he comes across as someone who's very confident, who definitely has a mean streak, and willing and ready to get after it. So I think that was a good pickup, for the O line, and that's pretty much somebody that's Justin Fields is going to need, while he's with the Chicago Bears, he's going to need a bodyguard. He's going to need a guy to go out there and protect him and willing to punch somebody in the mouth, for a late hit or being extra rough. And I think Darnell Wright is that guy. So, I'm happy with the first round pick.
Yeah, I think that's and kind of I was at the draft party and seeing all people's reactions and all that. A lot of people were thinking, "Hey, Jalen Carter, like they're gonna the Bears every pick that Jalen Carter didn't go, the fans were like, "Oh my god, they're really gonna get Carter. They're really gonna get Carter." And I was just
And
like,
that's the thing. If the Bears did draft Jalen Carter,
"Yeah,
I wouldn't have fault him.
mm-hmm,
He has the potential to be a generational talent,
mm-hmm,
but Poles is young. you
Mhm.
know, his GM tenure and being a professional executive in the NFL, and
And
that's not a risk
I
you
don't
can
know.
take right now.
And I don't know about you guys personally. I'd be curious to get your feedback. But one thing that just scares me with linemen is when you hear inconsistent motor. Does he really
Mhm.
want it?
Mhm.
And when I hear that stuff, I get it. I get all the strength, I get all the athleticism, I get all the ability he has. But that just kind of scares me in general, especially when you got a young team. Like if you're Philly and you got Fletcher Cox and some of these other guys that are on
Mhm.
that D line, I'm not as worried about that. And then, of course, you surround them because you had so many picks that you could get a bunch of Georgia teammates. Okay, you're building like this perfect situation. I
Right.
get a little worried about motor. Like I'd rather you be a little bit less on the physical side of ability and have that intangible motor, that constant just engine revving versus, hey, how do we get him up for this game? That is always just kind of like, I kind of want to stay away from that type of guy.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that
I would agree.
yeah, no, and that's what everybody was saying, right? That they're trying to build a culture here, and they don't want to throw a wrench into anything that they're trying to build here. And I think also, on the positive side of things with Darnell is like I think that sends a message, that Ryan Poles is sending a message here is that main priority is always going to be Justin Fields, and protecting Justin Fields is what they tried to do with that pick right there. And I think it said a lot. I think they said a lot more with getting Darnell than getting Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter was the easy pick, but I think kind of moving down and getting that, that trade with Philly and getting that. And as you said, Ryan, that's what people were saying as well is that, he's going to a team in Philly where they're not going to take any BS, that they got experienced veterans down there and championship caliber players. They're definitely gonna either take him under his wing or put him in check. So I think it's gonna be or both, I guess. So,
I mean,
but
I think, and then here's the thing I like
mm,
to add, to that, it was, looking at the draft and how it played out, it was obvious, that numerous, teams have taken him off the draft board, including the
mm,
Bears, and the fact that the Bears were able to, get a fourth round pick next year just to move down one spot, you know, it was a win as well.
no, yeah, you're right. That was a good deal. And overall, I think another thing that people have been talking about as well is just those guys in the later rounds where they're gonna fit in like the puzzle that of Matt Eberflus. But what guys in the later? I want to get particular here with the guys later on in the draft. Like
Mm-hmm.
who do you guys think it will make a positive impact immediately from those guys? The guys you don't really expect it from, I guess, necessarily next year, or will be a pleasant surprise. But we'll start with you, Ryan. Who do you think from the later rounds, we'll get down there kind of like, like a Travis Bell or like a Kendall Williamson, stuff like that.
Yeah. Is the fourth round a little too early? Because those are the two guys. Are they too early enough? Is that count with the day three? Because those are the two guys I really am looking at. That Texas running back, Roshan
Mm-hmm.
Johnson, he just seems like he can kind of do it all. He's maybe not an explosive athlete per se. He's got some burst, some twitch to him, but they talk about him as being as solid or as good of a runner as he is as a pass blocker and pass catcher. And that I think is really intriguing when you're talking about just a room of running backs that's not like you don't have David Montgomery where he's our starter, our three down back. You're going to mix and match a little bit. And sometimes you can be a little bit too mix and matchy. And those third downs, when you need a guy that can step up and block, you can almost kind of outthink yourself a little bit. I feel like they've got just the running back position kind of figured out. And then I look at that Tyler Scott receiver pickup. I mean, Darnell Mooney, he's had a lot of different injuries in his young career. He's a skinnier guy. Sometimes with those slot fast guys, you're dealing with injuries of all kinds. And you need to kind of have that protection there with somebody that can really take the top off a defense and put him either in the slot, or if you want to move DJ Moore into the slot and put Tyler Scott outside. I think like that extra pickup of a receiver and knowing that we don't know what we're going to get out of Velus Jones. I don't know what is the development potentially there. And you get kind of that extra piece of insurance that, hey, this guy who's a former running back but is pretty developing well as a receiver in a very unique offense in Cincinnati, he's going to have, I think, a lot of run after catch ability. I really liked him a lot. He stood out to me.
Yeah, when you talk about Tyler Scott, that's a guy that's gonna come into that room and you got to compete. Now Bayless Jones has to get it together. Some of the guys who are coming into the final year of the deal, you're gonna have to compete and really show it because you got somebody who can play. Behind you and who wants to play. And I think, he was able to get that room a little bit more competitive. He made it a professional wide receiver room with the addition of DJ Moore, but now he just added another layer of competition to that room. Because when you come out there, you're gonna have to have people on their P's and Q's and be able to execute because you got people waiting in the wings.
Right.
And I think
Equimania St. Brown, you can't be dropping passes, dog. Can't be dropping passes.
And hopefully, we can just kind of see the end of Dante Pedersen, some of these other guys, saying with the addition of a Tyler Scott. Some of the players that intrigue me going into the later rounds, I'm really intrigued because, like you said, we did need a corner. I like Tyreek Stevenson, but this guy from Minnesota, let me get his name up here, Terrell Smith, he has a lot of size and he's fast. Which bodes well for him playing in the special teams, maybe as a gunner. But you look at the makeup of the receivers, in the NFL right now. This is size-wise, he's going to match up pretty well. And if the Bears were able to bring in guys off the street and have them play pretty well. So I'm kind of excited to see what Tyrell Smith is able to do. Tyreek Stevenson, I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to, he projects to be a day one starter coming out in the second round, and I'm very hopeful to see the end of Kendall Vildor. I just don't, I'm like you. I'm tired of him.
Hey, if he's the fourth or fifth corner, maybe five.
If he's on special teams, it's okay.
Yeah.
But
Joe, that's a really good point with Terrell Smith because he is a guy that got really affected by COVID, the shortened season, and then he had some injury issues. And last year was the year he kind of put the durability together, playing pretty good football at the University of Minnesota. That could be a guy that maybe if there was no COVID and everything was normal, he might have been a third or fourth rounder.
And I think the way that the secondary is shaping out, you have a lot of athletic guys on the back end of your defense, that can cover and be physical and tackle well as well. When you talk about the guys that they picked up last year, and Brisker and Gordon, and I like Gordon sticking to the inside. I think that's better. I think his shiftiness and the ability that he has with his feet, having him play the slot receivers and, taking away that inside threat is going to be to his strength. They asked him to do a lot last year, being both outside and inside. Now that he can just focus on one thing, I think we'll see him, take another step. He was kind of getting a lot better. He was kind of getting better, I should say, towards the end of the year, was able to, get some takeaways. I think if he can just focus on one thing and one job and being the nickel, we'll really see how effective he is. And hopefully one of these guys on the outside, Stevenson or Smith, can, hold it down on the outside along with Jalen Johnson. Another guy that kind of struck me a little bit was Travis Bell. We've heard a lot of how Ryan Poles thought about him and his story, and he's the first player ever in Kennesaw State to ever be drafted in the NFL. During the football season, he would work a full-time job and, then go to class.
How was he working full-time and going to school and football?
Going to school and
crazy.
Playing football. Exactly. So I think this is a guy that is going to come in hungry. And you talk about, we talked about football character, when we talked about Jalen Carter a little bit, this is a guy that's going to have the energy. You're going to have, the hunger to want to come in and compete. And I think that's going to elevate everybody in that locker room. I think that was a smart pickup by Poles, having, somebody who's really from the trenches, didn't come from a Power 5, school and have everything. He didn't have any NIL money, what I'm saying? So he is, he's going to really be hungry. I think when you can push the competition in the locker room and training camps and OTAs come around, I think that's going to elevate everybody's play. And I think he's whether he makes the team or not, I think he's going to be a player that can help do that.
Yeah, no, those are the type of guys you love to see, and you're right, Joe. And those guys coming into the league, are going to want to work harder than some of the guys that were drafted even higher than them. So yeah, it'll be cool to see. And we'll wrap things up. One last question: what was the draft? What was the biggest surprise for you guys? In the sense of in the draft, like where was it the Texans, trading up, getting CJ Stroud and Will Anderson back to back, and those, or was it, the Colts, because Joe, you talked about how Anthony Richardson was, a little bit of a reach at the 5 spot, and the Colts went with him. So was there anything that surprised you guys from the first round or just in general from the draft? We'll start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, my pre-draft prediction, I thought a surprise team would get in the top 5 and trade up. So I guess that's kind of the Texans for me. I don't think anybody, and I really love that move from them. I guess I was surprised by Anthony Richardson, not a ton, but I don't know. I guess I wasn't. I knew it was going to happen, but I can't believe it because he's Mitch Trubisky to me. Maybe a little bit higher floor, maybe a little bit high. Well, I guess I'll give him much higher of a ceiling because of his athletic ability. But they're basically as raw has come from the first round or within the top 5 of quarterbacks. And with how many inaccuracy issues he had, like I don't know. That it's one of those skills, you can't teach accuracy, and I get worried about inaccuracy issues. I get it. Josh Allen kind of figured it out, but there's not a lot of Josh Allens out there. I would say if we want like another one, I love their draft, but I don't know what the hell Detroit was thinking in that first round. I was shocked.
You took it from me. You took it from me. Listen,
I love their draft. Don't get me wrong. Overall, I look at that draft and I actually do like it. I graded it better than the Bears, but Gibbs, I mean, I guess from what I'm hearing, he wasn't going to go past 15 or something like that. I mean, whatever. But then Jack Campbell, inside linebacker at 8, I don't know. I was very surprised.
Here's the thing. Like, it's interesting that you had them graded their draft grade better than the Bears, because I think, what they had with the picks that they had and the capital that they had, they really had an opportunity to take control of the NFC North division, and they did not do it. I was surprised that they passed on Jalen Carter. I was surprised that they didn't take a corner. I think, yeah, and so, especially, they just kind of cast out Okudah, and then I think some of the key players in the secondary got suspended as well. So.
Yeah, the receivers got suspended. Jameson Williams.
The betting,
and then they
right?
cut Quentin Cephas.
So like, I'm just kind of like,
By the way,
like
Joe, you need to go look up the article where they break down what the Rams got officially in the trade and what the Lions got. Woo! Those Lions, they did some work with that trade. You got to give them credit with that one.
I kind of feel like they screwed it up this year, and traded back. I mean,
the Rams aren't complaining. They got the Super Bowl, right? Like, you got the bowl, you got the chip.
They got the Super Bowl, and I think, I think the opportunity to take control of the North, and be, a good competitive team for the next couple of years or so, at least until the Bears get themselves together. I think they didn't do themselves to kind of fortify that with this draft and trading down and taking the players that they took. I think they definitely could have gotten help on the defensive line, and along with Aiden Hutchinson, you could have had a monster defense, a defensive front if you went ahead and, got another edge rusher or a Jalen Carter. I think that would have been real formidable and scary for the NFC North. They didn't do that. They went with a running back, and for all intents and purposes, Gibbs is a great, outstanding player, but you're not going to scare anybody in the NFL with having a great running back like that, really. I just think, the draft value, the positional value is just not there to take it. I don't hold him in the same regard.
He's got to be like a star. He's got to be a game breaker. Otherwise, that's yikes.
Right. He's got to be Saquon Barkley. He's got to be Adrian Peterson. I don't really see that. I
Me
don't see
neither.
that.
Me neither.
I
I
don't
mean,
see
he's
that.
fast as hell, and the combination with David Montgomery and a terrific offensive line, I could definitely see
Well, how
it
do you
being
feel if you David
successful.
Montgomery right now, who kind of, shafted the Bears, right?
Hey, he's counting that money, Joe. He's counting the
He
bills.
counted the
He's
money.
good.
He counted the money,
He's
but
counting the
his
bills.
days are numbered.
I'll give you one other one. How about Georgia North? These Eagles getting all the Bulldogs, even that
Oh, yeah.
was it Keely Ringo in like the 4th round. Like, I've never seen anything like this. It's kind of cool. I want to see what it's like, but damn, they got some good players from Georgia there.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe Nolan Smith dropped as much as he did.
Yeah, did you guys see that video of Howie Roseman when he was calling? I forgot who he was calling. But he was just like, you know how much this hurts me getting all these Bulldogs because he went to Florida. So
oh, did he?
Yeah,
I was convinced he went to Georgia with how many Bulldogs are in that building.
That's why everybody was like, man, this guy's drafted. He went to Florida. That's crazy. All right, so I know Ryan Bukowiecki got to head out. Thanks for joining us, man. And of course, you can check out Ryan on that Davis show. I know they just had a show this week where they covered the draft as well. They recapped with all their picks and all that. So Ryan, once again, thanks for joining me, and thanks for joining me and Joe. And you take it easy, man.
For sure, always great joining you guys. Can't wait. I mean, what's next? We got mini camps, we got veteran camps, we got training camps. This thing's gonna be coming here soon, boys.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.
To finish off here, Joe, I did want to get. I know I mentioned him a little bit earlier, but I did want to get your thoughts on the whole, Colts getting Anthony Richardson. A lot of people were questioning whether they were going to get a quarterback or not. I know Glenn Morgan was talking about it when he was on our show a couple weeks ago, but I know you mentioned it as well. It was a little bit of a reach, but what did you think ultimately on that move by the Colts there?
Okay. I would say that it was surprising. No one really kind of knew what the Colts were going to do. And to take Anthony Richardson, I think that's just kind of a testament to where the league is heading right now and having dual threat quarterbacks. I think that the stress, we've seen it with Justin, the stress that it puts on defenses and the way you can attack defense, with a player like Lamar or Justin, Josh Allen, these dual threat quarterbacks, it's really taxing. And it's hard for defensive coordinators to come up with game plans to kind of take them out the game. I think a player like Anthony Richardson has a huge amount of upside. He has size. He has on his side he has the speed, and he has a hell of an arm. I think it's going to be a project for Indianapolis. He's definitely not going to be like a plug and play. And they're gonna have to take their lumps with him, but as long as they're willing to ride out his development, and kind of take the good with the bad, I think he could be a good player. Like he has huge potential. It was just kind of interesting to see them take Richardson at that spot because for so long they've been on the cusp with the playoffs and and being able to possibly get to an AFC championship game and with the defense that they had, and they were always just a quarterback away. So I kind of figured, they would take a more finished product, but that just didn't, present itself this year. And you also got to, remember, this is, something that that the Colts, I fully think they've done it before. They've tanked before to get Andrew Luck. What I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So and we've seen it with in Carolina they drafted Jimmy Clausen one year and they came back the next year and drafted Cam Newton. So this could be one of those same situations where they drafted Richardson, they let him play. And they lose a bunch of games and they come right back the next year and draft Caleb Williams. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I do like his upside. Hopefully, he could work out for them. But it's just going to be interesting. Hopefully, the fan base can be patient enough, and they can kind of build with him and around him, and have some success.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I know a Colts fan, and he was saying that wasn't really happy with the whole pick of Anthony Richardson there, but it really you kind of just hope that they're able to find something with him there and get some success from a quarterback position because they definitely need it from there.
I think more so is just where the league is going now with the kind of players that they want at the quarterback position. Obviously nobody's going to come in and beat Patrick Mahomes, but he's also one of those, dudes where he beats you from the pocket more than he does with his speed, but he's able to beat you with his speed when he needs to. And I think those are the kinds of players, that teams are looking for now. Teams that can punish you if you leave a lane to get a few extra yards and keep the chains moving, and somebody like Anthony Richardson is able, if you give him a little bit of crease, he can take the top off and get to the house. So, kind of like Justin, he has that same ability. So I think it'd be interesting.
No, yeah, you're right. And I think that, that's kind of what some people were saying too, with the way that some people were drafting this year. It's just like, hey, it's a different league, man. So it's kind of, it just depends on where your team is at and which direction you're going in. But another thing I wanted to mention too, with when it comes to, new or the new looks that teams have is, like, for example, the Panthers offense right now, they have their quarterback with, or they hope, I guess you would say, right, with Bryce Young and the number 1 overall pick. They got guys like Miles Sanders and Hayden Hurst, Adam Thielen in there. So they got some nice offensive weapons in there. And I think that, I hope, because I'm rooting for a guy like Bryce Young. I kind of, it's one of those things where I feel like I heard so many negative things about a guy like
stink.
All right, so we're gonna have to make some kind of bets, Joe, like for the season.
I want them to stink. Here's the thing. I think I think you want to root for somebody like Bryce Young. He's real likable. And I think you want him to have success. But I think, for me being a Bears fan and having that pick next year, I want the Panthers to stink.
Fair point. I don't. Hey, how about this? The Panthers suck overall, but Bryce Young has, a solid rookie, like he's solid rookie, year for all. There's a win-win right there for me and you, Joe. Where we don't have a problem with.
He can have one of those rookie years like Peyton Manning had when he threw, 20-something interceptions. You know what I'm saying? And they stunk. You know what I'm saying? He can have one of those rookie years. You know what I'm saying? Peyton Manning still went on to be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
That's true. That's true. Learning process. Well, welcome to the NFL, kid.
Right.
So
right.
Nah. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up, man. It was good talking to you about the draft, but like Ryan said as well, man, that training camp's right around the corner. So soon we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about. So I want to thank everyone for watching Warp Media Bears recap, and of course check out all our array of shows with At Bat Podcast, Open Run with Gabe Wilkins and Joshua Hicks. And just enjoy all of our content. Of course, follow us at all our social medias at Warp Media. For Saul Rodriguez and Joe Tanksley, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Peace.